Have you ever felt like something inside you was meant for more, yet you stayed exactly where you were? Not because you lacked talent, not because the opportunity was missing, but because fear whispered louder than your courage. Many people live their entire lives standing on the edge of possibility. They watch others rise, soar, and explore the skies of their potential, while they remain grounded, safe, familiar, and quietly dissatisfied. They tell themselves comforting stories. Maybe this is enough. Maybe I'm not meant for more. Maybe tomorrow. But deep down, there is always a question that refuses to disappear. What if I tried? What if I failed? What if I succeeded and lost everything I know? Fear has a subtle way of disguising itself as wisdom. It convinces us that staying still is maturity, that caution is intelligence, that avoiding risk is the same as being content. And so without chains, without walls, without anyone forcing us, we choose not to move. This story is not about failure. It is not about weakness. It is about unrealized potential. It is about a bird that was born with wings strong enough to touch the sky, yet refused to leave the branch it knew so well. As you listen, you may begin to recognize something familiar. Not in the feathers or the forest, but in the thoughts, doubts, and quiet fears that echo in your own life. Stay with this story until the end. Because sometimes, the greatest tragedy is not falling from the sky. It is never discovering that you were born to fly. Long ago, at the edge of a vast green forest, there stood an ancient tree taller than all the others. Its branches stretched wide, brushing the clouds, and its leaves whispered secrets carried by the wind. Many birds lived there, building nests, raising their young, and learning the art of flight beneath the open sky. Among them was a young bird named Aaron. Aaron was not smaller than the others, nor weaker. In fact, his wings were broader, his feathers stronger, and his chest fuller than most. From the moment he was born, the elders noticed something special about him. That one will fly far, they would say. Higher than the mountains, perhaps. But Aaron did not believe them. While the other young birds practiced leaping from branch to branch, tumbling clumsily and laughing at their falls, Aaron stayed close to the trunk. He watched in silence as they flapped, failed, tried again, and slowly learned to trust their wings. Each time he imagined himself doing the same, his heart tightened. The ground below looked too far. The air felt too unpredictable, and the thought of falling filled his mind more than the dream of flying. Aaron told himself he was simply patient. He convinced himself that waiting was wise. "I will fly when I am ready," he said quietly, day after day. Yet seasons passed, and readiness never arrived. The forest changed. Spring brought blossoms and hope. Summer filled the sky with motion and song. Autumn painted the leaves gold and red, and winter stripped the branches bare. Through it all, Aaron remained on the same branch, gripping it tightly as the wind brushed against his feathers. Deep inside, he felt a growing ache, not of hunger or cold, but of something unfulfilled. He admired the birds who returned at dusk with stories of distant rivers and endless skies. He listened carefully, pretending curiosity, while a silent voice inside him whispered, "You could have been there too." But fear answered louder, and so Aaron stayed, balanced between what he was and what he might become, unaware that his greatest struggle had not yet begun. One quiet morning, when the forest was wrapped in mist and the air felt unusually still, Aaron noticed a presence on the highest branch of the ancient tree. It was a bird he had never seen before, larger, older, with feathers faded by time and eyes that seemed to hold the sky itself. This bird did not sing. He did not move much. He simply watched. Curiosity overcame caution, and Aaron hopped closer, careful not to stray far from the trunk. The old bird finally turned and spoke, his voice calm yet firm. "Why do you cling to the branch as if it were your life?" Aaron hesitated. No one had ever asked him so directly. "Because it keeps me safe," he replied. "The wind is strong. The ground is far. One mistake and everything could end." The old bird studied him for a long moment. "And yet," he said softly, "you were not born for branches." Aaron felt something stir inside him, part resistance, part longing. "Easy for you to say," he answered. "You already know how to fly." The old bird nodded slowly. "Yes, and once, I knew fear as well." He shifted his position, allowing the morning light to reveal scars along his wings. "I have fallen. I have been hurt. But I learned something that changed everything." Aaron leaned in, listening. "I learned that wings grow strong not by holding on," the old bird continued, "but by letting go." Then he gave Aaron a task. Simple, almost disappointing. "At sunrise tomorrow," he said, "stand at the edge of your branch. Do not jump. Do not fly. Just open your wings and feel the wind." Aaron frowned. "That's all?" "That is all," the old bird replied. "Do it every morning, and do not ask when the fear will leave." Before Aaron could respond, the mist thickened, and the old bird lifted effortlessly into the air, disappearing into the clouds without another word. Aaron remained still, his heart racing. The task seemed meaningless, yet something about the encounter unsettled him. For the first time, he wondered if his fear was not protecting him at all, but quietly imprisoning him. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, Aaron stood alone on his branch. The forest was quiet, as if holding its breath. Below him, shadows stretched across the ground, and the distance felt even greater than he remembered. He hesitated. Every instinct told him to stay close to the trunk, to keep his wings folded, to pretend the encounter had never happened. Yet the words of the old bird echoed in his mind. "You were not born for branches." Slowly, with trembling resolve, Aaron stepped to the very edge. His claws tightened around the bark. His heart pounded so loudly he thought the whole forest could hear it. Then, with effort, he opened his wings. The wind touched him. At first, it felt cold and unstable, pushing against his feathers in unpredictable ways. His wings shook, and fear surged through him like a wave. He nearly folded them back, ready to retreat. But he remembered the task. He stayed, just for a moment longer. That morning, nothing magical happened. He did not fly. He did not feel brave. He simply survived the fear. The next day, he returned, and the next. Each sunrise, he stood at the edge and opened his wings. Some days the wind was gentle. Other days it roared, mocking his hesitation. Sometimes other birds passed by, gliding effortlessly, laughing and calling out to one another. "Why don't you just try?" they asked. "Are you afraid?" they teased. Their words cut deep. Doubt joined fear, and together they whispered that this ritual was pointless. Weeks passed, and Aaron grew tired. His wings ached, his mind filled with questions. What if the old bird was wrong? What if this is all I will ever be? One stormy morning, the wind was fierce. The branch swayed violently, and rain soaked his feathers. As he opened his wings, a sudden gust lifted him slightly off the bark, just for a heartbeat, before slamming him back down. Pain shot through his side. Shock followed. For the first time, Aaron had tasted the edge of falling. He pulled himself back toward the trunk, shaking, convinced that this was proof his fear had been right all along. Alone and bruised, he considered giving up. Yet beneath the pain and disappointment, something unexpected stirred. For a brief moment in the storm, the wind had held him, and that moment refused to be forgotten. Days passed after the storm, and Aaron did not return to the edge of the branch. His body healed faster than his confidence. Each time he thought of the wind lifting him, fear rushed back, sharper than before. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in soft gold, the old bird returned. He landed quietly beside Aaron, who was staring into the distance. "You felt it, didn't you?" the old bird asked. Aaron lowered his head. "Yes, and it hurt. I nearly fell." The old bird nodded. "But you did not fall." Aaron looked up, confused. "You think the lesson was about flying," the old bird continued. "But it was never about the sky. It was about trust." He moved closer. "Fear tells you that safety comes from holding on, but strength comes from learning how to respond when the wind changes." Aaron listened as the pieces began to settle in his mind. "The wind did not betray you," the old bird said gently. "It tested you, and for a moment, you felt what it means to be carried." Silence filled the space between them. "In life," the old bird went on, "we wait for fear to disappear before we act, but fear does not leave first. It fades only after we move." Aaron thought of the mornings at the edge, the trembling wings, the laughter of other birds, and the brief lift in the storm. Slowly, he realized the truth. His ritual had already changed him. His wings were stronger, his balance sharper. His heart, though still afraid, was no longer frozen. "The branch," the old bird said, "was never your protection. It was your limit." Aaron closed his eyes. For the first time, he understood that potential is not proven by what we dream, but by what we are willing to risk. And that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act while fear is present. In real life, we are often like Aaron. We wait for perfect conditions, complete confidence, and guaranteed outcomes. We call it preparation, but often it is fear in disguise. Growth begins the moment we step closer to the edge, not when we feel ready. Aaron opened his eyes again. This time, the sky no longer looked like a threat. It looked like an invitation. The next morning arrived quietly, without storms or dramatic winds. The forest awakened as it always had, unaware that something within Aaron had shifted forever. He did not rush to the edge. He did not announce his decision. He simply moved with a calm he had never known. When Aaron opened his wings this time, there was no trembling. Fear was still there, resting in his chest like a familiar shadow, but it no longer ruled him. He stepped forward, not because he was certain of success, but because he finally understood that staying still was the greater loss. And when he left the branch, the sky did not reject him. It welcomed him. His flight was not perfect. He dipped, he wobbled, he struggled against the air. Yet with every movement, his wings remembered what they were made for. Below him, the ancient tree grew smaller, not because it had changed, but because Aaron had. He circled once, then twice, and laughter rose from his chest, a sound he had never known he carried. The forest stretched wide before him, full of paths he could finally reach. Somewhere above, the old bird watched in silence. This story is not about birds or branches. It is about the quiet moments when you stand at the edge of your own life, between comfort and growth, between safety and purpose. The sky you fear is often the very place where you will discover who you are. Do not wait for fear to vanish. Do not wait for certainty. Wings are not proven on the branch. If there is something in your heart you have been avoiding, something you know you were meant to try, let this be your moment to step closer to the edge. The wind may be unpredictable, but it is also what carries you forward. And one day, when you look back, you may realize that the branch you clung to was never your home. It was only the place where you decided to begin. If this story spoke to your heart, take a moment to let it sink in. Sometimes, the message we need most arrives quietly, through a simple story that mirrors our own fears and hopes. If you know someone who is standing on the edge of change, unsure whether to take the first step, share this story with them. It may be the reminder they need that courage is built, not found. Support this channel by liking the video and subscribing for more inspiring stories that explore life, growth, and the hidden strength within us all. New stories are shared regularly, each one designed to help you see your journey with clearer eyes and a braver heart. And before you go, ask yourself one question. What is the branch you have been holding on to for too long? Thank you for listening. Your story of growth may be just beginning.